Hey everybody, it's Jason with Parallel Reality coming back with you today with an article from MRC Newsbusters, America's Media Watchdog, from June 24th. And this will be one of the dumbest yet kind of funniest headlines you'll ever see. Funny in a sarcastic sort of way. It says CNN's Erin Burnett says there's a friendliness to Iranians who chant death to America. Because I've always heard, out there just in the wild, like people chanting for the death of countries or people, that it always seems pretty friendly. So this is how stupidly biased, I was about to say ESPN, I don't know why. This is how stupidly biased CNN is. So it says, near the start of Tuesday's Inside Politics, CNN's Outfront host Erin Burnett tried to downplay the long-standing practice Iranians chanting death to America and death to Israel because, from her experience reporting from Tehran, those same people often display a friendliness and genuine interest in America. And if you don't know who Erin Burnett is, she's actually the person right here in the middle of this picture. This is her, right here where my mouse is. Says, yes, dear readers, Burnett declared those calling for mass killings of innocent Americans have a real friendliness about themselves. Again, all those friendly people chanting to the death of an entire country. This Inside Politics host Dana Bash had set the table with the topic of regime change given President Trump's Sunday night Truth Social post and the rabid Islamic regime in tatters following Israel's nearly 2-week war and Saturday's U.S. airstrikes. This Bash correctly wondered if there can be true peace considering Iranians having a penchant for gathering in groups to chant about killing Americans and Jews. And Dana Bash, by the way, is Jewish as far as I know, so this is something that would affect her directly. But, of course, she works for CNN, so ideology takes place over common sense. Says, so, Erin, obviously the whole MO coming out of the White House and from President Trump in particular is everybody needs to calm down. We want calm. And if you even suggest regime change, that is quite literally the opposite of calm. But the question is whether or not the calm can remain when the regime is still, that is still there who wants death to America, death to Israel stays in place, and that is part of the discussion, right? God, that is kind of, I don't know, it seemed like a weird way of framing that, but okay. And anyway, it says Burnett dismissed this reality because of her personal experience, and she would then, and I think this was supposed to show it says, it is actually a Twitter post, but yeah, here, we'll go into what it says instead of me blabbering. So she then went on to say she's been hearing from some in Iran that I have not heard this from before. A sense of deep uncertainty given his age. That's the Ayatollah. He's 86. And this moment where everything that he has stood for and put Iran on the line for which is giving up economic future, giving up so many bright stars who left the country, all in the pursuit of a nuclear program designed to counter Israel. No, it's designed to destroy Israel. If it was countering Israel, that would imply that Israel has their nuclear weapons to specifically to counter them or to fight them, and they're not. Israel has to protect themselves. Notice how they haven't used them. So no, Iran's doing it because they want to kill Israel and then America. That's it. That's the entire reason it's for. And so it's a misframing, but let's go on with the article. It says, for the first time from some I've heard, what was all this for? What was all of this for when the leaders, the religious leaders of this country have focused on things like women's hair and what they wore? So, it's unclear how far things like that will go. How much of that is emotion in a moment that is exhausting and stressful and has meant a lot of failure for Iran, and how much of this is something bigger, she added, before closing with questions about the economic impact. For example, if Iran were to choose, what am I talking about? It says, if Iran were to close the Strait of Hormuz, Burnett questioned whether the Ayatollah even gave his approval for the ceasefire. It says, and then from Erin Burnett, she said, the Ayatollah, the supreme leader, being in a bunker underneath Tehran because he was at fear of his life, when this deal was done, and perhaps being out of contact with the people we had to make the deal is something that, as we look back on this moment, may end up being a very significantly reality that as the timeline plays out and we see where this goes, we look back and say, okay, that was something very important, and Bash says such an important point, and then we can click expand if we want to read more, which I don't think we do, but I think that's just to go ahead and show. I'm going to try to find the friendliness thing here while I'm talking, and Erin Burnett here. Oh, here it is. Yep. So right here is where she says it, for people saying it was probably in that embedded tweet up there as well that is kind of blurred out. But right here she says, I remember Dana at one point being in Tehran years ago, and they're chanting death to America all around me, even as I say, oh, I'm an American reporting for CNN, and they were happy to speak to me. So those two sort of jarring realities of the chant and yet the friendliness have existed together. So Yeah, friendly death to an entire group of people chants. Those are a thing apparently CNN thinks exist. And again, this is the woman you should direct your ire to because that's a moronic thing to say. But again, it goes against Trump, so they got to frame it in some way. Let me know what you think about this in the comments below. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.